Welcome to Selling in the Motor Trade, in association with Automotive Management and symcotraining. This is the weekly podcast where we share best practice, tips, and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your dealership or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bowkett, or some of you might already know me as Skippy. And firstly, I want to say thank you for taking the time to tune in. Hi, I want to share with you today a fable that a very good friend of mine, Mr. Steve Leap, told me many years ago. And it really struck a chord with me. I think it might with you as well. You see, this little fable's about a man called Vladimir. And Vladimir lived in the deepest, darkest Russia. And Vladimir lived with his wife Mary. He was a humble farmer. He had a very small holding. He lived in a little farmhouse. But you see, the land that they had to farm was very rocky, and life was hard for Vladimir and Mary. But they were good people. They were happy people, but they didn't have a lot. And Vladimir always wanted to give Mary more in life. He felt he hadn't given her the best. But one day, they're in the middle of a blizzard, the middle of winter in the deepest, darkest Russia, and the worst storm they've seen for years. And they were huddled up inside their house, their little farmhouse, keeping warm beside the fire. And they heard a knock at the door. They looked at each other and thought, who could this be out in this weather? With that, Vladimir opened the door, and in fell this man who was shivering with cold. Quick, Mary, quick, help me get him near the fire. So they huddled him in near the fire. They put a blanket around him. They got him as warm as he could quickly. Vladimir went out to tend to his horses. He took the man's horses to the stable. He fed the horses. He watered them. He went back in to see how he was. I said, we need to get food into him. And they gave the man their food that night to try and get the guy as warm as they possibly could. And they put him to bed in their own bed. And they stayed up talking all night, wondering who the stranger was, out in the middle of nowhere. In the morning, the man woke. He was so appreciative of Mary and Vladimir saving his life. He said, thank you. Thank you so much. You've saved my life. I must repay you. They said, not at all. We'd do it for anyone. With that, the man said, you know what? I honestly believe you would. He said, Vladimir, did you look after my horses last night? Yes, I did. They're out in the stables. Would you please go and fetch my horses? Of course I will. Vladimir went to get the horses. Most beautiful specimen of horses he's ever seen. The saddles were saddles of wealth. He brought the horses around, and the man said, Vladimir, I am a count. I have no needs for wealth. I have all I could possibly need. I would like to give you a gift as an appreciation of you saving my life. For that, he reached into the saddlebag. He pulled out something wrapped up in a cloth. He went to hand it to Vladimir. He said, Vladimir, I want to give you this, but under one condition. You only use it if you and Mary desperately need it. This is only for emergencies. Do you promise me that? He said, of course. He handed it to Vladimir. He opened up what was in the cloth, and he found a shiny gold bar. He said, I couldn't. That the count said, I insist, and rode off. So Mary and Vladimir, they went and dug a hole behind the stables. They buried it deep down where no one knew it would be, only the two of them. And they went back to their happy, humble lives. Until the spring come around. And Vladimir said to Mary, you know the top field, the one that's really rocky, the one we never farm? I think this year I'm going to plough that and see if we can grow crop there. Mary said, but Vladimir, you always said that, what if it doesn't germinate? That seed, we need that seed to survive. If it doesn't, we won't get through the winter. And Vladimir said, you're right, Mary, but if it does, we've got that gold brick to fall back on. He said, you're right, we do. And reluctantly she agreed. So he worked really hard that summer. He actually ploughed all the rocks out. He worked as hard as he ever had. They actually planted that extra top field, and it worked. They had more crop than they possibly needed for themselves. So much extra they could sell a bit extra and save a bit. Next season come around. He said, you know what, Mary? I think I'm going to speak to Nikolai next door, the neighbour. See if I can rent his field as well. You know, the field that he doesn't use. And Mary said, that doesn't make sense. Paying rent, it's dead money. We can't do that. What if it doesn't work? He said, but if that happens, we've got the gold bar to fall back on. And reluctantly, she agreed again. And it worked. They had extra crop now. The next season, Vladimir come to Mary and said, you know what? The crop's working so well, it's just me. I think I need to employ a farmhand to help me out. What, employing people? Vladimir, we're but simple people. We can't afford to employ people. What if it doesn't work? I don't want the responsibility having to feed another family. Not sure if we can feed our own. He said, but if that happens, we've got the gold bar to fall back on. With that, again, Mary said, okay. Anyway, years passed by, and Vladimir and Mary were wealthy people. They're people of status in their local community. You see, Mary and Vladimir had helped build the local hospital. Mary and Vladimir donated more money to the local orphanage than anyone else had. So many people come to Vladimir at times of need. 20 years passed, and the same count returned. He came back into the farm and he couldn't help but notice where the small humble farmhouse was a big farm mansion. The stabling everywhere. And he said to Vladimir, I can't help but notice that you've done all right for yourself. I said, I have, and it's all down to you. He said, no, Vladimir, I've done nothing. You've done this. But I couldn't help but notice, it doesn't look like you need that gold brick anymore. Would you mind terribly if I could take it back off you so I can give it to someone else who might need it? He said, of course, of course. So Vladimir went back out to where he buried it. Well, only he and Mary knew where it was. He dug it back up. It was still in that same cloth from all those years ago. He handed it to the count. The count said, Vladimir, would you mind opening it? He opened it up. As he opened it up, inside was a crumbling old gold-painted house brick. He said, I don't understand. What's happened? I don't understand. He said, you see, Vladimir, all I gave you all those years ago was the confidence. The confidence to go and build the life that you always wanted. You did it all yourself. What a lovely little story. And this is what I urge you to do. If you're starting out in your career, start building your gold brick. Put away 10% of your earnings now, every month. Pay yourself first. Don't save what's left at the end of the month. There'll be nothing left. Save first and put away just 10%. Because very quickly, with the magic of compound interest, in 7 years' time, you'll have 1 whole year's salary saved up. Let that be your gold brick. Because when an opportunity comes along and you're nervous about taking this opportunity for fear of failure, you've got something to fall back on. Because you think, in life, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Anyway, that about does it for now. I hope this story, you remember it for the rest of your life. That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, symcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bowkett through LinkedIn. Thank you.